Hello, everybody. This is the weekly static site editor group call. This is the engineering focused one. Um, I'm going to get straight into it. Just in terms of, we normally have our internal deadline for when we want our MRs to be with maintainers and merged to make sure they meet a milestone. We're not going to talk about that at all this time around. Um, there's enough things going on in the world for us not to have to worry about when is an email going to make it or not. Also, our product is, I'm making an assumption, I need to check the data, but that our product is mostly being used on GitLab.com if it is being used. And so with the fact that we're deploying daily to GitLab.com, we should just get into the continuous delivery mindset and just keep pushing our issues through, and not worry too much about the milestone and so on. Planning for a milestone is important, both from external communication and setting expectations and so on, but I don't want it to cause undue pressure. So we're not talking about that. And when we get to the point below where we're going to talk about about 13.2 and what we might want to carry over from 13.1, there's no shame in something carrying over. It just is a fact, and that's it. Right, so that's it. We have a provisional list of issues that we are considering for 13.2. This is obviously before we're factoring in any team input, which is what we're mainly doing today, to consider which issues might need to carry over to 13.2 from the current milestone, as well as if there are specific issues that's in the backlog that you might want to work on. And then we also have the Make GitLab Significantly Faster initiative going on at the moment, which is a OKR for the dev section in Q2, which I would like to give you all an opportunity to identify any issues that you might want to work on around that. And so once I get all of that info, I'll add it to our 13.2 planning sheet, and Eric and I will then settle on what our final list is of what we're going to aim to achieve in 13.2. We want to keep it fluid as far as possible and not be overcommitting from a delivery point of view, because our main focus for 13.2 will be integrating with the handbook. We're going to do a partial integration in the sense of we're only going to promote it on a subset of the handbook, which is the product section in engineering. Well, not in engineering, the product /handbook/product. But so what we're doing is we're not going to restrict anybody from, if they put in a URL for another handbook page, we're not going to do any checking for that. But we're certainly not going to be advertising the link on the page outside of the product section. So why product section? Because we don't want 1,300 people giving us feedback at the same time while we're still in our early iterations. Also, they're a good persona that's, most product managers at GitLab are fairly technical, have a good understanding, yet aren't necessarily code writers. So they're not going to overanalyze an issue, yet they will likely give us enough feedback where we don't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the person was trying to do, just to understand their feedback. So we feel it's a good target market to pitch the static site editor to first up. And then, but like I said, we're not going to restrict access. We're just limiting how wide we broadcast it and make it easy by just clicking the link. So that's our initial kind of like main focus. So in terms of the spreadsheet, I'm going to quickly share my screen. Let me just find the right one. Okay, and I then want to quickly just switch to this. So I'm mostly quickly going to talk per person, what your main theme is for so far for 13.2. Now, remember, as I said, this is totally up for this. This is still work. We haven't finalized anything yet, and we want to take your input into consideration as well. But Enrique is going to take charge in terms of the overall integration effort of the handbook and the static site editor. So I'm tasking him to say, from the handbook side, it might be as simple as adding a link, but I'm sure we're going to run into a lot of edge cases and scenarios that we haven't thought about that we need to handle in the editor on our side. Now, that doesn't mean he has to go and physically implement all those edge cases. He might have to work with Jacques to fix it, or with Derek or whoever, but ultimately, like, I'm putting it on his shoulders to make sure that it gets done. So no pressure, Enrique, but it's all on you for 13.2. And that will be your only issue assigned from our side, because it is going to be a large effort, and it's going to be a big coordination effort as well, which thankfully you're quite good at. But as you've already indicated in the document, there's some issues regarding the making GitLab faster that you'd like to contribute to, and more than happy for you to do that. Jacques, you're going to be mostly focused around iterating on the image uploading. So not just inserting a link to an existing image, but physically uploading a new image file. So that will be a priority focus. Also some more UX enhancements like custom toggles for WYSIWYG and Markdown mode. And then also having a look at a bug that happens on mobile around jumping behavior in the editor. That is for now primarily your focus. So the image uploading is a big part of handbook usage. So that will be your largest focus there. Derek, your main focus is also around UX improvements on the editor. So improving the information architecture and the styling of the success page, as well as adopting a full width editor in the UI. And then also further enhancements to the discoverability of meta information in the handbook. So Vasily's actually just merged the MR that introduces the maintained by section in the handbook, and we'll keep iterating on that by surfacing more information as well as making it more useful. Then Vasily, you're primarily going to be focused on further handbook metadata surfacing, as well as linting of content in both the handbook and the docs project, which is where your primary focus will be. And Chad, as usual, you'll be stuck with the monorepo refactor and tackling that beast for us. So I also would like you to be you now have a very intimate understanding of the handbook and middleman and stuff. So if there's anything that might need to be customized or configured or done to help with the integration with the static site editor, that you be the primary backend support on that aspect. So that kind of like gives everybody their primary focus area for 13.2. And basically what we'll do now is we'll look at what you have identified in terms of carryover from 13.1, as well as things that you might want to additionally focus on in 13.2. And we'll add it all in here. We'll review it, and hopefully by Wednesday latest, we'll have probably a first pass at what the final list will look like. Any questions on that before we get into the actual issues that we want to tackle in addition to this initial list? Going once, twice. Alrighty then, I'm going to stop sharing, and we'll move on to the next item then. So speaking about the issues that we want to then consider for 13.2, either carryovers from 13.1 or new ones. Enrique, you've got the first one there.
So now that we have all of the GraphQL APIs that we need to implement submitting changes in the server-side editor. Thanks, Vasily, by the way. That's awesome work. I think that we should replace the REST API calls in the client. So I think that could be something that we could work on.
What is the t-shirt size effort for doing that? Extra small, small, medium, large?
Small. You forgot that one.
Well, all right. Derek, you've got the next one. By the way, it sounds like a good one to do, Enrique.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned I already bumped a few. And then as we kind of talked about in our one-on-one, there are for the rendering non-markdown content in the WYSIWYG editor, there are obviously, to break that down in smaller iterations, there are numerous other ones to kind of handle there. So obviously I don't anticipate getting all those done. So.
Yeah, so essentially for 13.1, what we're trying to do is get the framework and the way of how we deal with non-markdown content buttoned down. And then, you know, there's various different types of content that we'll need to then cater for. Thumbsuck of, I know there's no one size fits all solution, but Thumbsuck t-shirt sizing for a single content type dealing with that?
It obviously depends on which one you're doing, but I think they're small to medium, basically. HTML might be large. I just don't know what the scope of that is. As I kind of mentioned in our one-on-one, and basically because we're using the Toast editor and Toastmark has the AST kind of built in, it's actually the custom render approach actually is fairly straightforward, which is pretty handy. So crossing my fingers that remains true, but so far it's pretty straightforward. I think we have a straightforward path per custom render that we want to have for custom syntax essentially. So pretty cool. I'm comfortable with that so far. So.
Okay. Just a reminder on everybody, while we don't use weights for capacity planning or tracking, but I am using t-shirt sizing guesstimates just to ensure that I don't overload a specific individual with too many large items or so on. So there's no scientific measurement behind this. It's all gut based, and it's just to make sure that we're staying sensible in what we're doing. Vasily, you've got the next one.
Okay, so from my side, while I was working on this DRI on handbook pages, I discovered that there might be some potential improvements to the state that we have right now. For example, there are many pages that missing code owners, and one of my ideas was to identify these code owners, like maybe automatically identify them based on how many changes a specific person made, and also some tags, these GitLab handles, are incorrect and we do not validate them. So it will prevent us from displaying the correct avatar of the user. And there is also like an idea to introduce this validation and notify users if something went wrong. In terms of t-shirt size effort, right now it's like 3 potential improvements. All of them are small. So in general, I think it will be like medium task.
Should we break them up into separate issues? Like for instance, would we deliver them independently from each other?
Yes. For now, I just create like one single issue to track them down, but later I think they will be separate issues.
Okay, that's fine. We can break them down into implementation issues when we get to them. Sorry, the t-shirt size you said?
Medium.
Okay. And then lastly, Jacques.
Yeah, so the migration of the ES6 JavaScript in the docs project might need some carryover to 13.2. I'll probably get to the majority of it in 13.1, but I just want to point out that some of it might need to go over to 13.2.
Sizing?
T-shirt size would be a medium, I'd say.
Okay. If you haven't put something down yet, this is not the last opportunity to do so. If you don't have something yet, I know some of you have just come online. Chad hasn't had enough coffee yet to be properly functioning this time of the morning. So I'm giving everybody opportunities till tomorrow. Let's till end of day tomorrow to identify any specific issues you want us to focus on for inclusion and planning. The next up is the Making GitLab Significantly Fast initiative. So a whole bunch of issues and epics have been identified of things we can do to improve the performance of GitLab.com. And I really want to encourage you all to sign up and participate in that. It doesn't mean that it has to be finished in 13.2. You know, taking up an issue and running with it is sufficient enough. It could be a nice gap filler for you in terms of when you're waiting between reviews for MRs or whatever, and it might be something that you're really passionate about as well for doing. So I am not going to ask you to do a t-shirt sizing on those yet, because I'm assuming there's, you know, like there's a bit of thinking you'd need to do, and some of these might be in areas outside of our editor. You know, in fact, they are likely not related to our piece of the product yet, considering how small we are yet. So I would suggest that you take some time, and let's say by the end of tomorrow, everybody should add their desired issues directly to the spreadsheet. So I'll carry over all the ones from the group call agenda now, and I'll add them to the spreadsheet. And then from here on out, you can add them directly to the spreadsheet. And then let's say by the end of the day tomorrow, everybody should have you know, added what they wanted to add. And then on Wednesday, I'll start working through them and making sure they're nicely balanced and so on. Enrique, you'd like to work on removing dependencies that use jQuery.
Yes, I like to highlight that there are better ways of contributing than making an individual contribution by closing an issue. I've noticed that most of those technical devs initiatives lack project management. Well, we need actually to make some analysis and find where all of those libraries are used. So a good way of contributing, if we don't want to spend a lot of time making implementation, is just doing that work, like taking one of those epics, looking where all of that technical debt exists and creating issues for them. So I want to have a very constrained scope of the time that I'm gonna dedicate to that on this milestone. And it's gonna be basically that, you know, if I cannot actually make some merge requests to remove some of those libraries, I just want to create issues so everyone can contribute.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You don't actually have to write the code to contribute to it as well. Just the fact that you could help analyze and break down things further and test and give feedback is a contribution in itself. Derek?
Yeah, I basically just echoing the same thing with Enrique. That was actually a target one when I first saw Epi show the kind of had a visualization block of our various dependencies, and that definitely stuck out to me. I added a little note there. I think there's some level of potential automation there as well, but it may just be to what Enrique is talking about in terms of identifying versus just automatically fixing. But secondarily, there might be some potential of automatically fixing in some cases, but who knows? I did have a question. Where was the spreadsheet? Do you have I'm not seeing the link there, or I'm clicking the wrong.
It's point 2 under engineering.
Okay, cool. Never mind.
Oh, all right.
Oh, I see what you mean. Never mind. Okay, cool.
Okay. All right. Next point is Eric created for us our dog fooding site, static site editor unfiltered, which ties in nicely with GitLab Unfiltered on YouTube, as well as the unfiltered blog section. And essentially, this is going to be our site that we're going to use to dog food our own static site editor. Now, the intention is to just start using it. It's not about being perfect. It's not about having the ideal structure or anything. And so we're going lightweight. We're going with, for the engineering section, a changelog page, essentially. And one thing that I was, my proposal is that every time an implementation or feature issue is closed, i.e., it's validated on gitlab.com, that you make an update to the changelog page and it could be as simple as 2 sentences to say that you can now insert an image using the static site editor. It's not about the content, it's about the fact that we go through the flow that our users go through. That's what I would like us to go. And so I would like to hear from you all whether you think that this is a feasible thing to do. Noting that there's a very low barrier for adding content to that changelog page. It doesn't have to be perfect, or it should take you hopefully no more than 2 minutes. Any feedback on that?
I think once we have it in the handbook, that's going to be the real. I mean, we're close to that. I think that's going to be the best, personally. Doesn't hurt to have it though. I'm not saying don't have it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll then create our engineering changelog page. Eastwood, I think it is because you're not part of that group maybe on GitLab. So basically that the GL static site editor group on GitLab is what we use to for a short @mention handle for somebody to reach the whole static site editor group. So I think it might be that that page's site is said to be restricted to members of the project only, which would be why you can't see it.
No, which shouldn't be. So I'll check on that. I'm checking it right now.
Okay. Alrighty then. Okay. Any other feedback on that before I hand over to Clint Eastwood for the Gitter update? All right. Over to you, Eastwood.
Okay, for Gitter, we're working on a small desktop update to the backing NWJS, which is the wrapper behind web app. The latest, and that also fixes the GitLab sign-in issue that we were seeing that spawned this small update. And then I'm working on a get to know Gitter a call outline, and we'll have a casual call later in the week probably that'll be recorded for others to watch. Do you want to verbalize, Sean?
Yeah, so I actually just wanted to highlight there that Tomas is moving out of the Gitter team by the end of the week, which makes Eric the lone cowboy on the project. And so what we're going to do is, instead of having everybody all of a sudden helping out with code reviews on there, which might be quite distracting, is we're going, especially considering all the effort we're having in 13.2 with the handbook. Chad and I are going to work with Eric. So Eric's going to give us an outline of. We're going to have 1 or 2 sessions where he gives us an outline of the product, the infrastructure, and the code base, and to get us more familiar with it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start having a look at merge requests and seeing if we can give feedback, so that Eric has somebody that he can get use for essentially where we want to get to is where the whole team can help Eric with merge request feedback. What we don't want is to use your time to be a human linter for the code, which is why you need more deeper insight into what's going on to be able to really add value and to make use of make sure that your time is spent well, and that Eric gets value from that. So we're going to record the session around, Gitter as a product, the infrastructure, the code base, and so on, and we'll then share it at a later team with the goal to get to a point where we have everybody able to help out with code reviews on the product down the line. Alrighty then. Before I hand over to Eric, I wanted to mention one thing. We'll probably add a docs section and a handbook heading to our sheet going forward. So one thing I wanted to mention was Jacques is basically taking over in a non-official capacity as the acting EM for the docs project. So all the EM responsibilities I would have had with the docs project around setting up process, how we interact with the technical writing team, triaging issues, surfacing issues for consideration for planning. All of those kind of like things fall on Jacques' plate from now on. And so I will give a specific section in our group call to focus on the handbook as well as the docs project, considering that they are all categories that we deal with in our team. So I just wanted to give an update on that. And with that, over to Eric.
Thanks. I'll try and keep it short so that we don't stay too late. But just to echo what we were talking about with the 13.2 planning and give some context around sort of the theme I was going for. I think getting 13.2, getting the handbook in some way integrated, at least getting that started, is going to be the most important thing for us to reach our maturity goal, but also to start getting more feedback and more usage. And everything I tried to prioritize was just around cleaning it up in order to do that. So I think we've, in 13.1, already been tackling a lot of the most important, features that would support working in the handbook, specifically not displaying front matter or not editing the non-markdown content. And so I tried to prioritize a bunch of UX tweaks so we can put our best foot forward as we go out to product managers. There's 40 some odd of us, and then anybody else that is editing those product pages. So maybe we got 100 and some odd people with access to the static site editor, and then those people in those team members who stumble upon it and just want to try it out by passing in the URL. So a lot of it is tweaking the UX. The image uploading is a feature that would be fantastic for people to enable. That's one that, if it had to be pushed, I'd honestly not be, I wouldn't hold back from being in the handbook if we couldn't upload images, but I think it's going to be something that they ask for immediately. And I think the flip side of that is you'll see more handbook related issues on the spreadsheet than I would normally prioritize, because I think we're looking for a home for the static site editor on the handbook. So we're trying to clean up the handbook UX. The code owner's work is the beginning of that, but I think that we're starting to see some concepts from Michael and I'll talk about this a little more in the design and product meeting, but where there's a metadata section in each handbook page that could show the maintainer or code owner when it was last edited and provide links that are not all the way down in the footer to edit the content. And that seems like a really natural home for our static site editor feature, at least, open it up for the edit button. I think we'll need to iterate on that a little bit, because now we'll have 3 different ways to edit a page: the raw edit, the web IDE, and for the pages that support it, the static site editor. So yeah, we'll kind of find a place for it in 13.2 and then maybe execute on that in 13.3. But I just wanted to share that context in case you were curious about why some of the smaller UX improvements were prioritized over other features. But appreciate all the feedback on those issues that you listed. I think all of them sound like great candidates too. And if you have any questions, I know a couple of those issues that are linked on the spreadsheet need a little more detail, and I'll be working on those over the next couple days. And last, I know we're over, but I could use a volunteer that knows Vue to help on an issue. This was sent to me via Sid. He was trying to do some work on a calculator that we have already in place in production on the handbook. He added a few rows to it that are calculating some additional data using the same input. I don't know Vue, and certainly not well enough to extract the right data. I was working with another engineer on this. He's very busy, and so I just figured if somebody had an hour or two to work with me on this, that would be immensely helpful. Looks like Derek's volunteering, but I know he's got a lot on his plate. Chad, what's up? I can't hear you. This is never mind then. We can talk about it offline. I know we don't need to. But the calculator itself, I've left some notes in the HTML about what we're trying to calculate. I just don't know how to get the right variables in place. So that's it.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.